Welcome to our first parenting webinar on unlocking hope and creativity in the time of COVID. So these are unprecedented times for all of us. We have been in quarantine for several weeks already. We're coming up with this webinar to help you, dear parents, deal with this current crisis best that you can. We continue to be here for you as your partners. So how do we now deal with this current crisis? We have an invisible enemy, COVID-19. This has forced us to lock down our centers, our schools. We are now locked into our homes. For the past weeks, we have spent time with our families more than ever, which is a good thing. However, there are concerns, particularly with children with special needs, especially during this time when their routines have been disrupted. For the very first time, we had to do our IEP meetings, our final IEP meetings online. It surprisingly turned out well, but everyone is still learning how to translate teaching into this new platform. We are used to handling the kids directly. Parents, on the other hand, are used to bringing their children to therapy, working alongside their children's teachers. But now, parents have to take the primary role in facilitating their kids' development. We know that the window of opportunity for learning and development cannot be locked down. We may be locked down, but this window continues to exist. Time continues to run against us. These children need our children need constant stimulation. They need to continue with their learning in spite of the lockdown. We have to be more consistent in facilitating developmental skills, in promoting good behavior, but this is not as easy as it sounds. With the lockdown, there's a disruption of our usual routines, not just for our kids with special needs, but for everyone in the family. Many parents are now working from home. Some say that it's even harder than being in the office, in our actual offices. Now we have to combine family and work all in one venue, and then we have children being restless and everyone just being in one place at the same time. That is difficult. Now, it may be difficult for our kids who are developing neurotypically, but for children with special needs, it is twice, thrice, or even 4 times more difficult for them to deal with this sudden disruption of their routine. The critical period of development is the age of 0 to 7, but then research shows us that during the teenage years, there's another spike in development, in brain development. So children continue to learn significantly even during the teenage years. So it's very important that we continue to optimize whatever learning our children can get in our own homes. This is the perfect time to learn new skills. And one of those skills would be how to become more involved with our children, with our children's development, and with their children's learning. There is always a risk for regression. If the child hasn't attended therapy for a significant period of time, we can expect that once he returns to the center or to the school, there would be some period of adjustment. More so for an extended lockdown, such as the one that we have now, there is a risk for regression. There's also increased family stress. Even without the pandemic, having a child with special needs already poses more stressors than for a family without a child with special needs. There are economic demands, physical demands, mental demands, emotional demands to the family, increased demands to the family. And this is further heightened by the fact that we are now in a pandemic and the child now needs their parents more than ever. If your children have concerns, addressing those together may ease their anxiety. Children will observe adults' behaviors and emotions for cues on how to manage their emotions during difficult times. So we have to be careful with the way we handle our children during this time. Contrary to popular belief, children with special needs are actually very, very sensitive. Many of them do not have filters, so their emotions are very raw. That's why when they're mad, they're mad. When they're sad, they're sad. When they're happy, they're happy. So these emotions can actually be heightened during this time. So the best way for us to deal with that is to be as calm as we can possibly be, to try to be objective even if it's difficult, maybe to set aside time to devote particularly for therapy. So during the start of the lockdown, the first thing that we did was to come out with a blog on family-led therapy time and making the most out of home quarantine. So this is one of the advantages of this lockdown. We can establish family routines. We can involve the entire family, siblings, extended family, okay, those who were previously not as involved in the child's therapy. They can be involved in the child's therapy time. And these can be integrated in the child's daily routines. Home quarantine gives parents the gift of time. So when before we had to scramble to meet all our appointments, to balance all the things that we have to do within the day, with home quarantine, now we have more time. Ideally, we have more time to be able to work with our kids, to be able to know them more, to equip ourselves with skills that previously we have maybe delegated to others. We believe that parents remain to be the first and most influential teachers in the child's life. Teachers may come and go. They may change, they may leave. At different points in the child's life, you would have different sets of teachers, but parents will be there all the way. So our investment in our children's education, in their therapy and learning does not stop. So what are some practical tips for parents in establishing their home therapy routine? First of all, you set a time daily for your home therapy session. This is different for every family. This is different for every child. This should be a time when the child is most relaxed, most awake. What is his or her ideal time? For many kids, this would be sometime in the morning, as soon as they wake up, after they freshen up, have breakfast, then they're able to focus on working on their therapy goals. So what is this time for your child? For some, it may be in the afternoon, but this has to be a daily thing. We can skip weekends. We can skip weekends so that it wouldn't be so structured, because some of the therapy goals can actually be integrated in the child's daily routine from the time he wakes up all the way until he ends the day and sleeps. However, for your structured therapy time, wherein you deliberately plan out activities for your child, it would be best to set a specific time for that. It can be as short as 20 minutes. in a day. What's important is that it is consistent and you get to do it Mondays to Fridays. You start with 20 minutes, then adjust, add another 5 minutes every day until such time that the child may be able to complete at least 1 hour of therapy time. Number 2, prepare his therapy space, toys, and materials. You have to be several steps ahead of your child. Okay, for therapists, for teachers, now you are taking on that role. It's important that you prepare your space. You choose a space in your house wherein you have the least amount of distractions. You have to close off that space, clear the space. You only keep the toys or the materials that you would be needing. So also, in terms of the toys and materials, make sure that they are within reach. While you are having your home therapy session, they have to be within reach, within the space that you have prepared for therapy time. Because the minute you stand up, leave the child, then you risk the chance of him um, losing attention, focus, and just being distracted. So to be able to have a good therapy session at home, you have to be able to prepare your space, prepare your toys, and prepare your materials ahead of time. Third would be choose 1 to 3 goals depending on your priority areas. What are your priority areas? You can choose among the priority areas that you have already shared with your child's therapist. It may be in any of the developmental domains. It can be in the area of language, expressive and receptive language, in the area of motor skills, gross and fine motor skills, in the area of behavior, social-emotional skills, or self-help skills, adaptive skills, independence in doing activities of daily living. These are all developmental areas that you can focus on. So just choose 1 to 3. You can also choose among academic areas. If your child is already going to school, would you like to learn math today? Would you like to focus on reading today? So it would be good to set realistic and doable goals. Since you will be having your therapy time every day, at least 20 minutes a day, then you can just choose 1 to 3 goals every day. You can plan it out by the day and then later on by the week. Like let's say for today, we work on math. Okay, maybe tomorrow we work on reading, or you can do a little of each a day. Okay, in chunks of time, depending on your child's attention span. What is important is you are able to plan, okay, number 4, fun and engaging child-centered activities. So by child-centered, we mean that these are activities that the child would actually be interested in. So maybe during the first few sessions, that's something that you'd have to find out when you present a toy. Which toy does he engage in? Which toy does he like? Which activities does he like? Or since you know your child, important thing is you begin with what you know would be interesting for him. That would make your therapy time fun. That would help you keep his attention longer. You can revolve a lot of activities around a particular area of interest. Lastly, number 5, be sensitive to your child's cues. So as with any teacher, you'd have to know when your student is already losing interest in whatever you're doing. You'd have to be able to keep your child's attention as much as possible. So these can be physical cues, nonverbal cues, okay, or even verbal cues. Sometimes the child would really express, I don't want to do that anymore. Or the child would just really do something else. So that means the child is not anymore engaged in your activity. So what we're doing is actually what we call a transdisciplinary approach. This is a particular team approach wherein one person or one unit is in charge of addressing several goals. Okay, in this In our current scenario, we're looking at the family to whom the teachers would be releasing their role to. In a transdisciplinary approach, we do a lot of role release, which means you relinquish your professional roles by sharing what you know, by sharing your skills to other service providers. In this case, it would be the family. So you will be your child's therapists at this time. Now, many of these skills that you will learn during this time, you would be able to use for the long term. If you're able to manage your child's behavior now much better than you were able to prior to the lockdown, then you can expect that even when the lockdown is lifted, even after this pandemic, then you would have all those skills with you. What is important is that we are now able to help you develop all of these skills. In this slide, you see here a parent scolding your child. I am homeschooling you. That doesn't mean you can misbehave in class. If you keep calling out, I will have to call your mother and report my concerns to myself. So you are now in charge, but you can always call your child's teacher to ask for help. That is the reason why we are also offering other options. During this time, it would be necessary for us to explore other possible ways by which to reach out to you without the being physically present. So we have conducted a survey on online therapy. We have launched online therapy early on during the lockdown to be able to provide another avenue for parents to seek the help of their children's teachers. In the survey, we found out that 38% of those who took the survey, the respondents, we had a total of 166 respondents, they said that online therapy will not work for my child. Since this is a very new concept for most, even most teachers, most therapists are not used to delivering therapy online. Most parents would tend to think that it will not be effective because they would prefer face-to-face. For 18% of the respondents, connectivity is low, and that would be a major constraint in delivering this kind of service. For 15%, there would be financial and budgetary constraints. Many of us have lost jobs, decreased work hours. The economy has slowed down. Our businesses have suffered from the lockdown, so there would be financial and budgetary constraints. Some said that they didn't have equipment and materials. You need equipment and materials, but then in home therapy, you have to, as we said, unlock creativity. There are many things in your home that you can use for therapy purposes. So it doesn't always have to be toys, educational toys that you buy from stores, because many of the things that we have in the house can actually serve as materials for addressing our therapy goals. A few, okay, less than 10% said that they were not aware of the service, or some are not availing because of personal reasons. So what exactly is online therapy or online learning? It is the use of software and web-based health and educational delivery systems to facilitate the clinical care and learning environment. So in our case, we're applying online provision of services, both health and educational services. So in health, it is called telehealth, telepractice, or telerehab. Okay, these are different terms that we use for online therapy. For online learning, we use virtual learning. For some, e-learning, or delivering the K-12 curriculum content online. So online therapy or online learning has actually been used for some time already. It is a model used for communities that have no access or very limited access to specialist support. those communities that are hard to reach, those communities with few, let's say, speech therapists, online therapy can be an option. So in this model, okay, we transfer skills, we transfer roles from the professional to the parent. Like the most difficult would most likely be for the physical therapist, because ideally you have direct contact with the patient. But in this case, we see how the physical therapist is coaching the parent in doing range of motion exercises with her child. So the child benefits, but the parent also benefits, because now the parent feels more empowered in helping her child develop and to prevent possible regression. Teletherapy is evidence-based. There are researches that have been done proving that it can be a viable option for delivering quality therapy services. There may be a range of benefits in using intervention using telehealth to individuals with ASD or autism spectrum disorders, their families, and teachers. However, there would still be some limitations. Children respond differently to online therapy delivery. But for many, once they are introduced or they become used to this mode of service delivery, then they eventually adapt. There are some parents' concerns that I'd like to share with you, actual parents' concerns from the respondents. One parent said, I am considering it, but I am not sure if we can do it since we're also working at home and it might require us to undergo training for us to do it properly. So this is the reason why we have started this parenting webinar series. We'll be coming up with other topics based on parents' needs. We would be having topics on addressing sensory issues in the home, facilitating independence in ADLs or activities of daily living, teaching handwriting, or whatever other topic parents can learn from. It is just quite hard to do since our materials at home are lacking. We also have full-time jobs, so it is quite hard to balance. It is really hard to balance. We understand how difficult it is, but we just have to work around our family's schedule. Although we recommend it be done in the morning, but for other families, like for those with parents who work from 8 to 5, then therapy time can be sometime after dinner, 20 minutes after dinner, just devoted to one of the most important tasks we have as parents, and that is to teach our children. Is there a way we can get modules or instructions on how we can do simple exercises to improve his status without the need of online calling or interaction? I'm willing to pay for the modules we can do without the need of internet during ECQ. That way, his guardians will be able to spend some time doing helpful tasks at their own pace. Yes, online therapy can actually be delivered in two ways. One is through synchronous delivery. Another one is through asynchronous delivery. By synchronous delivery, we're referring to real-time service delivery, meaning we use video conferencing apps like Zoom, like what we're using now, wherein we teach our students or coach parents directly through video conferencing real time. But another way of doing it is through asynchronous modes of online therapy or online learning, which is on demand. How is this done? Teachers can send home programs, lessons, learning packets to their kids via email. Parents can check these and print out whatever needs to be printed out, worksheets, activities in their own time. And then they can just send feedback. They can email teachers back. They can upload and send videos or the child's output, work output for the teacher to comment on so that the teacher would know how to progress or update the home therapy program. So again, there are two ways of doing it, or you can actually also combine both, synchronous and asynchronous. So what are the steps? Okay, just to run through them. First, to read and sign the consent form. In the consent form, you would see there the purpose and the nature of the consult, what exactly is teletherapy or telerehab, what are the specific goals, what are the guidelines for implementation, confidentiality clause, okay, and feedback and monitoring. So remember that even with online therapy, therapists are bound to uphold the highest standards of ethical practice according to the respective disciplines with guidance from their professional associations. In our case, it's the Philippine Physical Therapy Association, PPTA, the Philippine Association of Occupational Therapists for OTs, and the Philippine Association of Speech Pathologists, the PASP. So even with online therapy, we make sure that all our therapists are licensed and certified, and they will assume direct accountability for ensuring and upholding the quality of service delivered online according to the ALRA standards of care. Then parents are asked to accomplish the pre-online session guide. This would help us set up the therapy environment in the house. So what online platform would you like to use? How is your internet connectivity? Rating it from 1 to 5, 5 being strong, 1 being weak, so that at least you can have a backup plan if in case there would be connectivity issues. What materials do you have in your home? What gadget would you use? Would you be using a desktop, a laptop, a phone, a tablet? Okay. Also, where would you be conducting your therapy session? Do you have space for it where there are least distractions? So this is a chance for the parents also to think of all of these considerations before they begin. So they would have a good therapy session once they meet online. Step 3 would be settling the payment via bank transfer or credit card via PayPal. Then the home program would be sent to the parent's email, and an appointment would be set. So once the home program has been sent, then the parent can now print out whatever worksheets need to be prepared prior to the online session. And the parent can also start working on these activities in his or her own time. Lastly, get ready to meet online, prepare space, materials needed, and a positive attitude. So just like the adjustment that children have to go through when they have a new therapist or when they're going to a new center or when they're just starting out therapy, children are bound to adjust. So don't expect that your first online session would be perfect. Okay, it would be a time of learning for both the teacher on the other end of the screen, behind the screen, and the child. It would be difficult at first for the child to focus. It can be an interesting time. Okay, the child may be surprised, why am I seeing my teacher on the screen and she's actually talking to me as if she were just in front of me. But then it can take a bit of time. Okay, but hopefully with every session, your child would adjust better and better to the online session, and then you would be able to adapt to this mode of service delivery. The funny thing about kids is that they are the reason we lose it and the reason we hold it together. So whether we like it or not, this is really necessary during this time. If there's one thing that we'd like to learn more of during this time of quarantine, then it would be how to handle our kids maybe more effectively, to be equipped with parenting skills, better parenting skills, specific to the needs of our children. Okay. Here is one testimonial from a parent who has tried online therapy and who has been doing it regularly for the past 6 weeks. Even at home, Noah gets structured sessions with teacher Karen, who has remained engaging and helpful with us in Noah Siaya as we all try to navigate our current normal. Alras is at home with us at least 2 times a week, and we're glad we signed up for the sessions. So teacher Karen is a speech therapist who teaches Noah twice a week. Okay, and his parents have been very satisfied also with the outcomes. So unlocking hope and creativity. So now they have hope that even with the lockdown, then Noah would most likely not regress because he continues to receive the services that he has been receiving, although using a different medium. We will overcome together. This will also end. This will also end. We cannot wait to go back. We cannot wait to see our students again. And I'm sure you also can't wait to be able to work face to face with your child's teachers. But we just have to hang on. Hang in there. Let us continue to help each other out. So you can contact us anytime if you need assistance, okay, through our email, info@alrersishome.org. So this webinar has been brought to you by Inspiring Curiosity Toy Store. Some of the toys we featured are from this toy store. So if you need materials, please check out their IG page. So with that, we thank all of you for joining us in this webinar, and we'll see you again in our next one. Thank you.